Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Jared here.
And this is Brandon.
And we are so happy to be talking together for the first time in forever.
In a while.
About the brand new Masters Universe Revelation series on Netflix.
Yes, it just hit Netflix this morning, and we have marathon through all 5 initial episodes. It'll be released in 2 parts. Part 1 was today, Part 2 will come later in the year. I don't think they've announced a date just yet, so we'll have to wait and see. But
yeah, and it was a breezy 5 episodes.
Oh, yeah.
They went by very, very quickly.
Yeah, when you're cutting off the credits, they're about 22 minutes apiece. So, I mean,
yeah.
just like regular television animation episodes.
So basically, we're going to divide this review into 2 parts. There's going to be an initial section. We won't talk very long without spoilers, just to give you overall impressions, no spoilers, on the very bare minimum of what you've seen in the trailers.
General thoughts, yeah.
And then after that, we are going to head straight into Spoiler Town, where we discuss every little thing we loved or hated or liked or didn't like.
All the decision-making behind the series and all the little minute points, so we'll go over as longtime fans, and we'll pick it apart.
And a lot of decisions were made.
Yes,
so
many decisions were made, people.
Very much so. All right, let's get right into it. First off, with our non-spoiler thoughts. Brandon, since you've not got to be in front of the camera in a while, I'm going to start with you. What are your overall general impressions for the show?
First thought is it's a very pretty show. I absolutely loved the way that it looked, both in terms of design work, color choices, flow, great moving animation. The voice work is stellar. It's the best voice cast for a regular animated series that I can remember since... I don't know, Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
And you've got some of the same people carrying over. A lot of DC talent behind this. Obviously, Kevin Smith's involved. I like the show very much in general. We'll get into some of the more specifics later, but I was very impressed and very happy with it.
Yeah, I think overall, I'll echo most of what you're saying, is that it looked fantastic. It didn't have the problem that a lot of modern animated shows have, where it looks good like still frame, and then they don't really move. Didn't have that problem.
Yeah.
All was in motion, looked really good, sounded excellent. All the voice cast was superb.
I would point to the Netflix, just as a straight-up comparison on the same platform. The Netflix Transformers series, for instance, look really good, frame by frame. You can get some great still images out of those. And I know it's pure CGI, so it's a different sort of animal. But very sort of choppy animation, very immature voice acting. This is in great comparison to that. So if that sort of gives you an idea of where they're at with 80s, retro shows, then this is, well, in terms of quality, it's
obviously
like
you can tell which one they spent the money on.
Yeah, exactly.
Revelation is as high budgeted, and high production value an animated show that you're going to find today in the modern era.
Visually, I would compare it to sort of the DC Comics DTVs. Some of the better ones. In fact,
yeah, some of the better ones.
I would put it in that same.
There's actually a ton of those that don't even move as well or as much as this does.
Not nearly.
Overall, though, I would say for my thoughts, it was really, really, really good. I think there was a few questionable decisions made, but it might not be the ones that you're thinking I'm going to say. And also, I would say that it simultaneously didn't fall into a lot of the things that I was afraid it would, but it also may have. And there's a lot of buts, maybes that's going to be a part of this review, and you're going to understand that as we get into it about things that are resolved or things that are unresolved in the show. Keeping
in mind, of course, this is just part 1, so we really have no idea where the story is going to go from here. So
before we get into spoilers, would you suggest that Masters of the Universe fans actually watch all 5 episodes of this?
Yes, absolutely. Watch from start to finish. There's been some bad buzz and some bad press behind this series leading up to its release. I try not to take those things to heart. Obviously, we got together and watched it early in the day today. And I wasn't overly concerned about those things, and I think that my thoughts going into it were warranted. I'm glad that I didn't let it get me down, because I really enjoyed it and had a good time. Now, if there had been zero buzz about any sort of bizarre decision making, would these things have caught me off guard and sat poorly with me? Possibly.
Yeah.
So there's certainly a level of appropriate expectation you have to have going into it, and I think that can be a negative thing sometimes. I don't want to say set your standards low. I just would say expect the unexpected. It's not going to be a straight up rehash of classic Filmation Masters of the Universe. It's not even a rehash of 2000X Masters of the Universe.
Well, in for a penny, in for a dime, because once you start the show, you're going to realize that they have done all the right things to get you as a longtime Masters, or new Masters for that matter, fan invested pretty quickly. And you're going to want to know some answers to some pretty big questions.
Big time.
So it's not going to be the thing. I really doubt that you're just going to be able to say, okay, well, no, you're going to want to see it through to the end.
Don't watch the first episode
Right.
and then throw it all from there. First episode's great, but I would say watch it all the way through. These 5 episodes give you a very good idea of where the series is going, which is, as far as we know, it's just going to be 10 episodes altogether. So consider this a 2-part animated feature.
Right.
And this is about 2 hours worth of story, and there'll be another 2 hours worth of story.
They just split it into episodes. As a matter of fact, you can watch this like as a movie. It'll go into the autoplay and just watch it all, and it'll be fine. I guess we're ready to venture into spoiler territory.
Yes.
So don't be crying too hard down below if you say that we've ruined the show for you. Look, and also I'd caution you not to look at the comments if you're not, because we're all going to be talking about spoilers.
Please watch the show.
Yeah, watch it before you engage. So we're ready for spoilers, and hopefully you can go and watch the show before we start. So I'll start us off talking about, I want to start positive here and talk about some of the things that I really loved about the story. First thing that I really loved, and people are going to probably have different opinions about this, is I like that they were trying to push the Masters lore forward.
Yes.
And it wasn't just me sitting there watching a prettier version of Filmation, which sometimes the 2000X series, especially that first season,
was
it was
very much just let's rehash these old episodes and modern them up and pretty them up.
Right.
These brands, as longtime fans, it's difficult for us to get outside of our bubble of characters that we love and general story ideas that we love, but these things aren't gonna reach out and hook in new fans, and they're not gonna have any longevity if all they do is recycle the same characters and same ideas over and over again.
And this is very much the other thing that I liked. It's very much a mature animated thing, but it is not like over the top crazy.
No,
because that's a trend I actually don't like very much, where people just shoehorn in stuff to make something R-rated.
Let's get as much gore in here.
It's it would be stupid with He-Man.
Yeah.
It would feel stupid.
Which there's a little blood, there's a little language.
A little language, but very this is the extent of a PG or light PG-13.
Yeah.
This is. I mean, I'd say kids, 10, 11, 12 could watch it no problem.
I'll watch it again with my 9-year-old.
Yeah. And so, of course you want to watch it first for you, and just see what you think, because everybody's standards are different. But I mean, so I liked that a lot.
There's less language, there's less bad language in this movie than there is in the 87 live action. Yeah. Or in the series than there is in the 87 live action movie. Yeah,
the 87 live action movie is actually pretty rough.
Pretty sweary.
Lubick, thank you. So the other big thing that I really liked is the pace of the show. I feel like it just moved. It doesn't just move well action scene wise. It moves well pacing wise.
Yeah.
Which is a big thing for me.
Absolutely.
I need the pace to be right.
Absolutely. The characters progress in natural, positive ways. I never felt bored. We sat and we no joke watched all 5 episodes back to back to back, back to back to back, back to back to back.
The other thing that I really like about the show is the emotional depth and the maturity that it handles the characters and the relationships with. And things like seeing Moss Man get killed were kind of traumatic.
Yeah, big time.
And I felt so sad when Orko bites the dust.
Yep, even Roboto, who I would not have
I know, and I was just like, why do I feel this way? Yeah. And Kevin Smith really did, in terms of dialogue, the man is, say what you want to about him, everybody has their opinion. I love Kev, but his dialogue is right on.
Yep.
The dialogue is great.
Absolutely. Great interactions between characters. Just terrific, monologuing from them. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite moments in the whole series is when Cringer convinces Tila to get back into the game and become an action hero again.
Well, that's one thing I thought I was going to hate about the show initially, is that Tila's attitude is a little hard to take at the beginning. Where
it's a little
and I'm going to get into that.
It's a little stock,
Yeah, where she's like, "You kept a secret from me, and I'm mad." And I never could quite... I don't think they justified that enough, why she was that angry.
Not quite. Which,
I don't think they did.
And I think that there's a situation where you have a person who's already grief-stricken, and it's just a convolution of emotions, there. So, she was going to react in an extreme way.
I was glad, though, like you said, that Cringer, immediately, he's like, okay, let's pull it back in here,
And I mean, getting back to what Jared said about giving the emotional depth to these characters that they deserve, just getting to put the highlight. Spoiler alert, He-Man is in the first episode. You'll not see him again.
But you see him in flashbacks.
Yeah, you see him in flashbacks.
But you will not see him or Prince Adam again until episode 5.
Yeah. You won't see him in person interacting.
And you don't even see He-Man in episode 5. Which, I'm going to get into, here in a little bit. But still, it's something to be aware of.
But it gave all these, supporting characters a chance to shine, which is the best. Yeah. Overall, that's what I would say is the best piece of decision-making for the show.
Right.
Sad not to see He-Man constantly. I do appreciate the flashbacks. You see He-Man in every episode.
Right,
in some way or another. Either as a vision or a flashback or something. And so that's cool. And I think that keeps it on brand very well. But, give Evelyn and give Roboto
and Orko
really these beloved supporting characters that some of them we just kind of love because they look cool.
Exactly.
Finally, give them something.
Why not go forward a little bit?
Something to sink their teeth into.
And the voice acting, like we got into, is insane.
It's stellar. Yeah.
There's not a single voice cast that didn't work in the show. Even things that are weird, like Kevin Conroy playing Merman. That was unbelievable.
It perplexed me because I was like, why?
Why would you do it?
Why use Conroy instead of having him be King Randor or somebody with a little gravity?
The sea never forgets. He will live. And I'm thinking, old man Bruce Wayne voice, yes.
When you see it, it's like, fantastic. I suddenly know why.
Yeah, I have to drink some water now. Yes.
It's like, okay, well,
heart for the mission. Batman Beyond, sorry.
Like, okay, so that's why they got him to play Merman, or that's why they got Oppenheimer to play Mossman.
Oppenheimer's excellent as Mossman.
So good.
But I think that really we're just kind of beating around the bush here for the main reason why any fan should watch the show is because there is so much fan service crammed into this show. Like, okay, I know that He-Man is dead through the first 4 episodes, and then maybe again at the end. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
I know that, but I also know that they are trying to make it up to you. I feel like at every step of the way.
Yeah.
The brand people at Mattel, man, they have crammed because Kevin Smith. I know that they probably assisted him a great deal in cramming all of this lore stuff and the way the characters look. And it's crazy how much is in the show. Things that are clear references to things that are as deep as the Faceless one from the 2000X series.
Well, it had, I think the only thing that sort of went untouched was maybe New Adventures. But, aside from that...
probably an intentional decision.
Yeah. You've got...
I like New Adventures, it's fine.
Yeah, you've obviously got Filmation references. You've got 87 live-action movie references. You've got 2000X references. You've got classics continuity. Both in terms of story beats and visuals.
Most of the base continuity of the show is classics. The Masters of the Universe Classics file cards more than the Filmation ever was.
And this is I'll throw out my first negative beat, which this is not a criticism at all of the material, but they promoted this and they pushed this as a sequel series to the Filmation cartoon. It really isn't.
No, not at all.
I don't get that beat whatsoever.
No.
It follows up on some ideas. As a vague follow-up, I sort of get it, but obviously they can't reference She-Ra now.
Right.
Apparently, they got to be separate entities in media. Obviously, there's no references to She-Ra, and that's really where He-Man leaves off in the Filmation continuity is having adventures with She-Ra. So, it's definitely not a sequel to that. So I think that was a point of bad promotion. But
or maybe brilliant because that's what most people are familiar with. But it's not true to what it is.
No,
it's
not
what
at all.
Brandon, I think, is what you're trying to say.
So this is finally the classics verse animated series that we always wanted.
That we wanted
during the run,
but didn't get
of Masters Classics. So this is really cool.
If He-Man wasn't really in it,
yeah,
Which, by the way, I just want to say that first episode with all the stuff with He-Man is very classic and very fun, and they go a long way into trying to make up for him not being in the rest of it.
Yeah,
but this. Honestly, He-Man not being in the rest of it is probably the most direct route, I would say, to pushing, other characters and pushing others into the spotlight and making it different than what come before. I'm not saying it was the right decision, because I'm going to get into that, But I'm just saying that if they wanted to do something different and wanted to go further than had been gone before, that's the way.
How do you highlight other characters in a series called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe?
Right.
If there's,
and they dropped He-Man from the title of this show.
Which should be an indicator to anybody.
Just Masters of the Universe Revelation. In that same regard, I feel like that's the perfect segue for us to talk about it. He-Man is the absent elephant that's not in the room. I mean, he just isn't there. There's flashbacks and things, but let's just go over what happens to him. At the beginning of the show, he uses the Power Sword as a conduit to try to trap the energy that Skeletor releases from the orb that is the source of all magical energy in Eternia, which is pretty much in line with Classics continuity from the file cards and things. From the bios, I guess is the more appropriate term. File cards or G.I. Joe.
Keep reading the bios.
So, that's great. But anyway, though, he takes in all of that, and it kills him, to take it all in.
Well, it splits the traditional Filmation Power Sword into the two halves. A really cool new design for the two halves.
It's actually beautiful,
as a throwback to the to the vintage toys, which they've never addressed in the Filmation series.
Never.
There was actually, you may be aware, there was an intention with the 2000X toy line that the sword would finally be assembled by Skeletor, and that He-Man's sword was like a techno sword reforged by Man-at-Arms.
And that was brought back up in the Classics continuity. They reused that idea.
And I feel that same hint of that story beat with this series as well, where you've got the sword splits in half, and Man-at-Arms creates Roboto, so Roboto can forge the sword back together. So I think it's that same spiritual DNA as that Four Horsemen concept.
And the two separated halves sort of look like Skeletor's Power Sword that the Four Horsemen designed with the two halves, which was supposed to be the actual Power Sword. You might want to watch Jiggling that, sort of. It's kind of jiggling. I don't know what we do about that. I don't know if we do anything.
I'll just...
I could all... it don't matter. But really, the thing is that it... Does it hurt the show? Yeah, I think it hurts it a little bit. He-Man not being around. It is a calculated sacrifice that Kevin Smith and company have made, at least in my opinion. I think they made this for the sole purpose of pushing, some of the other characters to the forefront. So they have done it knowingly. I don't think this is accidental. It can't be accidental. No, the shadow of He-Man looms large all through the show, whether it's flashbacks from Teela or Teela literally fighting He-Man, as a... Spoiler alert again. It is not Faker in this scene like many thought. Faker actually gets cut in half right at the beginning of the show, which was shocking. Hope they can sell a lot of those deluxe figures before people find that out. But still, though, it is actually...
crowdfund at first like Hasbro would.
Yeah, really. But Scareglow is actually who she's fighting.
Yes, a fear projection created by Scareglow. Which Scareglow...
Oh, man. It's one of the best parts of the show.
The best guest character in the whole series, I think.
Tony Todd's performance, Candyman, Tony Todd's perforance is unbevillable.
Stellar, which he's a...
Scareglow.
He's
mostly a voice actor.
He's done since, the kind of the late 2000s. Well, he's The Fallen and Transformers 2, and then is picked up and done all kinds of great... It was Darkseid.
But really, it does hurt that He-Man, and it hurts my feelings a little bit, because He-Man is my favorite part about Masters of the Universe. I know that's not that's not going to be everybody. A lot of people, for whatever reason, hate He-Man. I don't know, whatever. But if you've always thought He-Man was just a corny big jerk, then the show is for you. Yeah. But if you're like me, it hurts a little.
If you're a fan of Transformers Season 3, where Optimus Prime's dead and they have to bring in a brand new set of characters to get in the limelight, then that's kind of the vibe I got from it a little bit. So, and that's a good thing to me.
It's a lot better than Transformers Season 3. Yeah. But for me, I'm going to start with the negatives pretty hard here. The biggest negative thing is, and I've not discussed this with you, but for me, you may have a different opinion, it is the point at which they decided to break the story apart, and it is the cliffhanger. I think, personally, is the biggest negative thing for this show, because you've got a show that you've built 4 episodes leading up to episode 5, which is in Preternia, which is now more of not ancient past of Eternia, but more used as a concept of the Eternian afterlife for its guardians, for the guardians of He, or whatever you want to say.
The Eternian heaven, which was kind of vague to us.
Yeah.
I kept asking, I wonder where Titus is, but... And then we thought, well, are all these the wielders of the power of Grayskull?
Right.
But then Mossman is there with
them. It's weird, it's undefined, and they didn't do a very good job with that.
Maybe they're saving Titus for later. I don't know.
But I really liked it because of all the cool fan service, and Vicor and things are in it, and even Wondar, the Wonder Bread He-Man, is in it.
Wondar, very cool.
Who is just drawn to look like toy He-Man in a way. Like, it's really funny. But
and dinosaurs.
Yeah, and Biotops. I mean, it's so cool. But I don't like that it spends 4 or 5 episodes building up to Prince Adam coming back to life, only to, and it's a brilliant moment because it is truly shocking and surprising.
Very
shocking. When Skeletor just stabs him and comes back to life, it almost gives credence to some of those trolls that have been like going on and on and on about the show about how it like hates He-Man or hates men or whatever. Because then as soon as he's about to become He-Man, he just gets stabbed. Mm-hmm. And I know that it's a very comic book writing kind of thing to do it like that. But now you've got this weight, and you're going to have people stewing over this. And you know what? We've discussed this. We don't really think Prince Adam or He-Man is dead.
No, I don't think so.
That would be stupid because, look, guys, if he was really dead, they would have hit him in the head or in the heart. It's down here in the gut, all right? He's probably not dead. But for me, though, that is the point where I was like, ooh, you guys are pushing a little hard on this. That's a little much. But it has me talking and wanting to see what happens next. So they were successful in a way.
Exactly.
But to me, that's where they threw it a little over the top.
Well, and we know that this part 2 is coming. It's not as if this is the entire order of episodes, and it's ambiguous when or if more stories will be coming along.
There's a whole other part of the story, and Skelegod don't show up at the end. And I told Brandon he should have popped out and said, "Oh, buy me a Target, kids!" No. That's all, folks.
Yeah. So I do think that it's a little bit. It's subverting expectations is all the rage now in this big franchise media. We've seen it time and time again with Star Wars and Marvel and everybody. But I think this show begins to subvert expectations right away, and then it builds back up, and then it cuts the legs out from under the main character again.
It's just a little too much.
It's a double
right
dip
there,
that I don't think jives very well with the spirit of the brand even.
Or what it even feels like it's building to. Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing we need to talk about is what is this building to? And there's a lot of rumors out there that the show is setting up someone else to be He-Man. And it'll be obvious to you when you watch it maybe what they're doing, that who would be the eventual wielder of the power. Listen, Mattel isn't crazy. I do not think that they are looking to retire He-Man as a character. That would be insane.
No, and of course we do know that there's another CG animated series coming out on Netflix. That's not been dated either as well. But so, they're not. This isn't to try to eliminate the character and bring these other characters to the forefront. He-Man is not going to be replaced forever. This is a one-off concept, and they're setting up threads about her power via the sorceress. I think that she'll become the main hero with magical powers. I don't necessarily think she'll become the next He-Man.
I think the idea in continuity for any version of He-Man in 2000X, Filmation, whatever, I think it's always that Teela is supposed to become the sorceress.
Yeah.
Like always.
I think so.
To me, I think that that's what it's supposed to be. So I think that that's what they're building to, that she has a magical destiny that is outside of just, wielding the power sword or whatever. But you know what? It wouldn't, in the same token, it wouldn't surprise me if they have her access the power and become a female version.
Yeah, and I think
that's where it's going.
Even if that's not the case, she'll wield the power sword.
And that's fine. I'm okay with that, but just tread lightly, because I think that a lot of people are already checked out on this show because of the liberties that they've taken. Yeah. And
that's unfortunate in many ways.
Because it's a really good show.
Yeah, terrific show.
You've got some real emotional, heartfelt moments with Duncan. And I mean, the writing, man. Kevin Smith had the emotion just down perfectly. It's a better written product than any Masters adapted media ever. I'm sorry if that makes you mad. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
Compare it to anything. I'm sorry. It's much better written.
For the first time, the characters are kind of like real people in a fantasy setting. And that may not be what people are looking for.
But it feels true to all the established attitudes and feelings of all the characters. Maybe Teela, is a little different and things. But that's okay. Let me just address for just a moment the gatekeeping and extreme troll nature of what we've seen out of the fandom with this. I have seen non-stop the fandom say things like, "Oh, well, Teela now is, she's a butch lesbian because of her haircut." Well, clearly she's still in love with He-Man or Prince Adam in the show, which this should be a non-issue anyway. But I understand that.
Even if that were true, it wouldn't bother me.
Right. Way, I mean, so the only thing is it wouldn't, be consistent with her, flirtatious relationship with He-Man in the show. Teela gets a tough haircut, and I really like Teela's new look in the show. It grew on me over time. It seemed pretty cool.
It's a good midway point between traditional Teela.
Unsubscribed. His people right now. What? How could you? They cut Teela's hair.
it's a great midpoint to me between traditional Tila and Battleground Tila from Classics, which is based on the concept art, Craig. Really good, sort of more warrior version of Tila, a little bit more battle ready. So I really like it.
So there's that, and then there's the other thing where people are like, "Oh, this is just a man bashing show. They're trying to get." Okay, all right. For one thing, that it nauseates me to no end that's where everybody always goes, and I'm sure that somebody at some point has had that as like a goal for their thing, but I never ever once actually got the feeling of that in the show. The only time I even felt like they flirted with that was right when he was about to become He-Man at the end, and then they just stab him.
Yeah.
That felt like kind of a little bit of a betrayal. It seemed a little untrue, because Prince Adam is so well-rounded as a character in the show and just grounded, and Tila's nothing feels preachy or like it's trying to tell me something about what gender. You even really think Masters of the Universe is like the vehicle to deliver some kind of gender politics agenda? They never even imply that something about He-Man is bad because he's male or something about girl power. You know what I think? I think that a lot of people, they say the girl power thing when they feel uncomfortable. When women are given like roles and something that are meant to seem smart or
positions
take prominence,
of authority or power positions,
and that's unfortunate. And it's really ridiculous. So I didn't get that with this show. If that's your argument, it's ridiculous.
You're either looking too close or not close enough.
Or not close enough. You've not been observant to what the show is. So, I mean, that's, to me, though, those were the only issues that I felt the show had going. There was a few little twists that were too obvious, like the old woman being evil and things.
Yeah, exactly.
Other than that,
which the characters seem to figure out on their own, so that's a plus. They didn't have to be it didn't have to be revealed to them.
Yeah,
so I think that was.
It's like they already knew it, but they were playing along with her, so at least that's good.
Yeah, I concur. There's maybe a few little beats of humor that I don't think play out very well. That just don't seem on brand for Masters of the Universe, but otherwise. I feel the same way about the cliffhanger, essentially. I think, and not so much, and I don't mind the cliffhanger ending. I didn't mind the Loki ending, for instance, as a point of comparison.
I didn't like the Loki ending. So
I remember that, so I was like, I wonder if you'll like this.
Yeah,
but
not much.
and to me, it's not even as much the cliffhanger, again, as it is double-dipping on, you kill He-Man twice in the course of the 5 episodes.
It doesn't seem, the novelty wears off.
Yeah, exactly. It's no longer a shock. Although I will say, it was right about the time that the Havoc staff starts floating that I was like, what is up with Skeletor? Where's he at?
I know, right? Which I will say that as a compliment, that Skeletor was used fantastically in this series. And I guess we can say anything we want to about gender politics or whatever, but this is Skeletor does at the end of the show what he has always wanted to do.
Finally, genuinely outsmarted He-Man.
Let's see what happens when it. And that's what I think this next half of the show is going to be about. What happens when Skeletor is given the power of Grayskull? And it's something we've needed to see for a long time. The comics kind of explored it, the newer DC comics with the Eternia War, and I loved that.
Well, I mean, we get a hint of it at the end of the '87 movie too.
Yes, there is a hint,
but it's just like hey, let's do this long enough to have a fight, and that'll be.
Then that's it.
There's no He-Man to stop him right away. In this one.
So I'm looking forward to this next half. And I really enjoyed what I saw so far. I feel reserved about where it could go because you may think that, oh man, he's just a sellout. He said it. Hey, listen, I have a lot of the same reservations you do about where it's going, but I don't think that they're setting up. I think they want to make you worry a little. I think it's meant to do that. I think it's meant to make you uncomfortable and cause you to watch the next half. And
exactly.
Congratulations, I am.
I think by the end, this 10th episode, I think the 10th episode will be very much like the first episode by the time it comes around. I think things will be, I don't think they'll be quite status quo, but they'll be relatively close.
I think they'll be close, and I don't feel like any of the character deaths were in poor taste or handled badly. As a matter of fact, they really touched me. And,
everyone got the dignity.
There was a lot of dignity.
They died with the dignity they deserved. So.
Yeah. All right, well, guys, we sure do appreciate you watching today, and glad to have Brandon back on the channel, and hopefully we'll get to make lots of more new content. Yeah. But anyway, though, guys, it's been great to be with you today, and of course, listen, even if you have the opinions that I was railing on or whatever earlier, listen, feel free to share them down below.
Yeah, that's what the internet's all about, people.
If you feel like that this was a disaster and you want to tell me why I'm wrong, tell me. Lay it on me thick, all right?
Yep.
But just don't Don't bring Brandon into this, for God's sake. Don't you dare.
I'm very fragile, people. Please, I
He will cry.
I can't take these emotional nights. Okay.
It's just usually I'm not like this,
No.
but when people when they argue about He-Man, I just. I'm sorry. That's what it feels like everybody's like right now about this show.
It is, yeah.
Guys, it's okay. It's just He-Man.
And,
It'll be all right.
and you'll get your traditional He-Man versus Skeletor cartoon with this CG series, which I
don't even think I want it.
I would put $100 on the table. Is not going to be a tenth as good as this. You know?
Maybe a 20th,
Yeah.
30th even. Oh, boy. Anyway, though, good journey to you guys,
Mm-hmm.
and thank you so much for watching. God bless you and yours, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever.
And remember, together we have the power.
But for me,
Prince Adam is dead now. There's your blooper for the ending credits.
oh.